Chapter 371. Have your fever subsided? This time, it was Jasper's voice. Yes, I'm okay now. Orissa assured her children to prevent them from worrying too much. She spoke cautiously, so they would not fret too much. Then, Jessie requested, "Mommy, can you turn on your video? Let us have a look at you." Orissa did not anticipate his request. Alarmed, she hastily replied, "No, I can't do that. There are many people here because I am not at home." If she turned her video on, the children would notice that she was in the hospital and worry about her again. "Mommy, if you aren't at home, where are you? I thought you were sleeping minutes ago." Jessie was quick to pick up the inconsistency in her story. Sticking to her lie, Orissa stated, "Oh, yes. I was sleeping earlier. However, I'm at your father's office now. His colleagues are around, so it isn't convenient to turn on the video now." Frustrated, Gavin huffed, "Mommy, I thought he allowed you to take a break from work. Why did you return to the office?" Orissa gave Benjamin an apologetic look, and he could only shrug. Feeling bad, Orissa rubbed her nose and tried to find an excuse. "Something cropped up, and I had to deal with it. I will go home soon." She wanted to head home once she got the drip. "Mommy, don't think about work all day. You have to rest well, so we won't have to worry about you." Zachary nagged while frowning. "Yes, sweetheart, I will heed your advice and head home soon." Orissa did not dare to make any other excuse and agreed readily. "Mommy, have you eaten?" Jasper asked. Stubbornly, Orissa replied, "Yes, I have." "What did you eat, Mommy?" Oliver continued, suspicious of her response. "I had pasta," Orissa lied. Amused, Benjamin stood by her side with a tickled expression on his face. Orissa was obstinate, and she shot him a warning look. "Mommy, I thought you were sleeping earlier. When did you eat?" "Not much time has passed since we called earlier," Jessie logically argued. At once, Orissa's expression dimmed. Why is she so sharp at times like that? She isn't always as quick as I want her to be. "Mommy, are you lying to us?" Zachary questioned, doubtful of all her earlier responses. Orissa did not know how to reply. "I did eat. However, I did not finish it. I ate a little and had to rush over to deal with the matter in the office." "Mommy, you should finish your meal. Don't go hungry because you might suffer from gastric. Daddy doesn't always eat his meals, and he always has gastric problems now," Gavin advised her while chiding Benjamin. "Who cares if you can't finish up your work? Your health should come first. When I go home, I will scold him on your behalf. He promised us that he would take good care of you." Orissa did not know whether to laugh or cry. Meanwhile, Benjamin raised his brows for he had been scolded for no reason. These days, he felt like Gavin's behavior was getting out of hand. Orissa turned to Benjamin. After noticing how upset he looked, she did not dare laugh at him. "Okay, I got it. I will have my meal in a bit. Anyway, you should rest early and stop worrying about me." Looking at Benjamin, she added, "Your daddy hasn't eaten either." "Well, that is his fault." None of the children jumped in to defend him. "Mommy, you have to eat and rest well. We will punish you if you still look sick when we get back." Jasper snorted and even slapped his thigh to warn Orissa. It made Orissa laugh. "Okay, sweetheart, go on and take your afternoon nap now. Bye." Although the children were reluctant to put down the phone, they wanted her to rest. Therefore, they sadly bid goodbye to her. "Mommy, bye." After Orissa cut the call, she heard Benjamin's jealous tone. "The children are concerned about you but do not seem to care much for me. You are too hard on them," Orissa defended them. Benjamin frowned. Unfazed, Orissa reminded, "When you were sick, they cared a lot about you too." Chapter 372. Benjamin raised his brows as she sounded convincing. "Orissa, I didn't think you could lie so well. You were a great actress earlier." It startled Orissa. She exploded with rage. "What do you mean by that?" "I did it so that the children wouldn't have to worry. They were still lies." Benjamin retorted, "You also told me many lies previously, so you are a liar." Stumped for words, Orissa leaned back on her pillow and refused to speak to him. Benjamin scanned her from head to toe. After he adjusted her drip, he sat beside her bed. Refusing to meet his eyes, Orissa looked elsewhere. Benjamin still had more to say. However, he decided not to continue since she still looked pale. Later, he got up to refill her water. He walked back and insisted, "Drink up." In response, she scowled at him. Although she reached out her hands to take the cup from him, he pushed them away. Then, he fed her the water. After she took a sip, she choked on the water. Ahem, ahem. Why are you like a child? Benjamin frowned and patted her back. Orissa coughed a few times before she finally caught her breath. Glaring at the man in front of her, she stated with annoyance, "I wanted to drink the water by myself. Yet, you insisted on feeding it to me. How could you blame me for choking after that? How is it my fault?" Unsure of how else to respond, Benjamin pushed the cup into her hands. "There, you can drink it yourself." Orissa took over the cup and drank the water. She felt more comfortable afterward. When she finished it, Benjamin collected the empty glass from her. "Do you want any more?" "Nope," Orissa heatedly responded. Scowling at Benjamin, she thanked him in a rude tone. "Thank you." Benjamin glanced past her and set the glass down. Seeing how the IV drip was almost empty, he pressed a button for the medical staff. Within seconds, the doctor and nurse came. "The IV drip bag is empty now," Benjamin told them. Following the procedure, the nurse came forward to take out the needle attached to Orissa. However, Orissa yelped as soon as she touched it. Instantly, Benjamin grew protective of Orissa and scolded the nurse, "Be gentle." The medical staff was taken aback by Benjamin's outburst. Similarly, Orissa was equally shocked by his reaction. She looked at Benjamin's stern glare before turning back to the nurse. She comforted, "No worries. Please go on to take it out." Immediately, the nurse removed it and pasted a plaster over her arm to stop the bleeding. Orissa subconsciously touched the wound. "It does hurt a little. Check if there are any issues with her," Benjamin ordered with an indifferent expression. Noted. The doctor was unaware of who he was. Besides, his cold aura frightened them, and they quickly did a checkup on Orissa. They also asked her some questions, and she replied obediently. "Remember to rest more and avoid getting agitated. It will also be good to keep your spirits up," the doctor advised. "Thank you, doctor." Orissa nodded her head, aware of her situation. When the doctor and nurse left, Benjamin wanted to interrogate her, but Sean and Bradley returned with the food. "Eat up." Benjamin pulled the overbed table over, and Bradley quickly put the food they bought on it. "Boss, please eat." Orissa nodded and sat up. Benjamin helped her up too. He opened the container of oatmeal porridge and mixed it for her. Seeing how focused he looked, Orissa urged, "I can do it myself." Anyhow, Benjamin shot her a look and continued to mix it. "Eat it once it cools down." Orissa did not know what to say. Meanwhile, Sean and Bradley watched the exchange in silence. "Benjamin, I also bought lunch for you. You can eat over here." Sean placed their meals on another table in the corner of the room. After he sat down, he gestured for Benjamin to join them, but Benjamin ignored him. He looked up and spotted Orissa smacking her lips in anticipation. The sight made him grin. "You must be hungry." Orissa turned to him and pursed her lips when she spotted the teasing look in his eyes. "Of course I am." Benjamin chuckled. Scooping up some oatmeal, he held it near her mouth. "Careful, it's hot." It took Orissa by surprise. Feeling the heat from Sean and Bradley's stares, her face turned red. On the other hand, Benjamin calmly looked at her and fed her another scoop, unbothered by the other two spectators in the ward. Chapter 373. Orissa opened her mouth. At the same time, Sean could not believe his eyes. He never imagined that Benjamin would feed a woman. Secretly, he snapped a picture of the scene and sent it to his friends. The group chat came to life right away as everyone asked who the lucky woman was. Since Benjamin had blocked Orissa's face, they failed to recognize her even though Kingsley and Jonathan had met her before. Regardless, Sean did not feed them the information. He covertly kept his phone but looked up to see Bradley staring at him in confusion. Sean smiled and suggested, "Let's eat." Innocently, Bradley returned the smile and sat down to dig in. "Benjamin, you should eat too." "I can do this myself," Orissa told Benjamin. Despite so, the man did not reply and continued to feed her. Without a choice, Orissa allowed him to continue as she was starving. Sometimes, she would peek at him and feel a sense of warmth enveloping her. Benjamin seemed sweet and considerate like that. Coincidentally, the man looked at her at that moment, and their eyes met. Immediately, Orissa averted her gaze, feeling her heart race. Hurry and eat. Benjamin scooped up another spoonful of oatmeal and blew on it before sending it near her mouth. Orissa ate it quietly. Following that, Benjamin continued to feed her. He did not think that he was doing anything out of the ordinary. When Orissa finished, Benjamin kept the container and utensils. Have some water before you rest, Benjamin nagged. Lying in bed, Orissa stared at him and stated, "You should have your lunch." Benjamin only went to Sean to have his meal after he handed her the glass of water. "Benjamin, you are better at what you are doing now." Sean could not help but tease him. Immediately, Benjamin shot him a death glare. "I am taking care of her on Gavin's behalf." "Sure, whatever you say." After hearing what Benjamin said, Orissa felt slightly disappointed. The warmth she felt earlier had dissipated. "Oh, he is only doing this on the children's behalf and not me." Soon, Bradley finished his meal. Since he felt stressed sitting opposite Benjamin, he did not stay seated. Instead, he walked over to Orissa. "Boss, are you feeling better?" "Yes. Don't worry about me. I am fine, so you should head back home." "I will go home soon too." Orissa said nothing else. Nodding his head, Bradley replied, "Okay, boss. Please have a good rest. If you need anything, feel free to call me." "Sure." Orissa nodded. After Bradley waved goodbye to Benjamin and Sean, he left. "Go check if she can be discharged from the hospital today," Benjamin ordered Sean. With a mischievous glint in his eyes, Sean looked at Benjamin and Orissa. "She can." Benjamin's gaze hardened. "How can you say that when you haven't even checked?" Benjamin sounded aggressive. Sean rubbed his nose. Feeling Benjamin's heated glare, he could only look in Orissa's direction. "Mrs. Graham, have you fainted before?" Orissa shook her head. "No." "Do you get headaches frequently?" Sean continued. "Yes, I do," Orissa answered. "How would you rate the pain? Is it bearable?" Sean asked in detail. Recalling the past, Orissa slowly replied, "When the weather is bad, the pain is worse. It does hurt more sometimes too." "Does it happen on a frequent basis?" "I guess so." Benjamin tilted his head as he listened, and he subconsciously frowned. "How many years has it been?" Sean continued to ask for his diagnosis. "It's been 4 to 5 years. Orissa glanced at Sean and added, "It started after I gave birth. Actually, I suffered a hit to my head." It was why she could not fully recall her painful past. Sean narrowed his eyes. "Is there a memory you can't recall?" Orissa bit her lips, and after a while, she replied, "There is a period I can't recall." "When is that?" Orissa knew he was a doctor. Therefore, she did not try to hide. Hesitantly, she answered, "It was when Donna took my children away. I have a faint memory of it." Chapter 374. Sean nodded his head, sure that the impact of the incident was the reason for her headaches. "Do you get splitting headaches when you get agitated?" Orissa nodded. "What did Donna say to you?" Sean quickly changed the focus of his question. Orissa almost blurted her answer, but she came to her senses and hesitated to reply. As Sean only asked out of curiosity, he did not pursue it. "After you rest a little more, you can leave the hospital. However, when you return home, you should always have sufficient rest. Don't harp on anything that makes you upset, and try to control your emotions. If possible, you should go for a full-body checkup. Your blood sugar level is very low besides many mild health issues. It's better for you to take note of them." "Thank you, Dr. Bailey." Orissa thanked him. "It's nothing." Sean grinned at her and sat closer to Benjamin. After Benjamin took a few mouthfuls of his lunch, he placed his fork down. Staring at Sean, he stated, "Can you go check now?" "There is no hurry. I think we can do it tomorrow morning and run a blood test while Orissa is on an empty stomach." Since Orissa's condition had stabilized, he did not think there were any problems. We should let Mrs. Graham rest more today. The physical examination is also tiring for her. Benjamin nodded before he stood up to walk to Orissa's bed with her medicine. Take this medicine. Okay. Orissa took it from him. Although she did not feel like having it, she had no other choice under Benjamin's watchful eyes. Then, Benjamin ordered the bodyguard to grab a sweater. Orissa was baffled by his request. After the bodyguard returned with the sweater, Benjamin wrapped it around Orissa's shoulders. Orissa looked at him in surprise. I'm not cold. You are not well, so you should not catch a cold. Benjamin helped her put on the sweater before he scooped her up in his arms and walked out of the ward. Let's go home. Orissa felt her face grow hot. Sean chuckled and quickly cleaned the area before leaving to sign her discharge papers. Meanwhile, Orissa could feel strangers staring at her while Benjamin carried her out of the hospital. Embarrassed, she buried her face in Benjamin's chest to avoid seeing more people staring at them. Benjamin lowered his gaze to see that her cheeks had turned bright red. His eyes softened at how small she looked. Minutes later, they were out of the hospital. He only put her down when they reached the car. Thank you, Orissa muttered. Sitting in a corner, she quickly took off his sweater as she felt hot. Keep it on. Benjamin frowned. It's too hot. Orissa complained. Turn the temperature down. Benjamin instructed the chauffeur in the driver's seat. As the air in the car grew colder, Orissa had no other choice but to hold the sweater closer to her. This man is out of his mind. Are you still feeling hot? Benjamin looked serious as he asked her. Pursing her lips, Orissa glanced out of the window without a word. Silently, Benjamin stared at the back of her head and felt the corners of his lips lifting. Then, he reached out to smooth her hair. Instantly, Orissa froze. Through the reflection in the window, she could see the man's expression. She was taken aback by how affectionate Benjamin looked. In disbelief, she blinked a few times. When she looked back at his handsome features, she noticed a frown on his face. Did I see it wrongly? How could he look at me with those eyes? Orissa could not resist and turned to look at the man. However, he had already turned away to look at the email. She bit her lips. Since it was a smooth car ride, she unknowingly fell asleep. Her head popped up and down, and she almost hit her head in the window. Seeing that happen, Benjamin held her closer to him and glared at the driver. He growled, "Be careful with your driving." "Yes, Mr. Graham." The chauffeur was startled and replied timidly. While Benjamin hugged Orissa close to him, he continued to read his email. Later, he noticed how uncomfortable she looked, so he adjusted his posture sideways to let her sleep better. A surprised expression appeared on the chauffeur's face through the rearview mirror as he spotted how gentle Benjamin looked at that moment. Is Miss York going to be the CEO's future wife? All the way back to the Graham residence, Orissa did not wake up. Benjamin carried her up the stairs when they arrived home. Chapter 375. Edwin took a double look when he saw Benjamin returning home with Orissa in his arms. "Mr. Graham, have you eaten lunch?" "Yes, we have, but you can prepare some afternoon tea." "I'll ask Orissa to eat when she wakes up," Benjamin softly instructed before carrying Orissa to the bedroom. After he gently placed her on the bed, he carefully removed the sweater she wore and covered her with a blanket. At that moment, her phone rang. Benjamin quickly cut the call and walked out to return the children's call. "Mommy," Jess's sweet voice sounded at the end of the line. At that moment, Benjamin wondered if it was a girl's voice. "Your mother is sleeping." "Oh," Jessie shouted in surprise. Then, she angrily stated, "It isn't Mommy on the phone." "Jasper, you can have it." "Who is it?" Jasper's voice sounded. Before Jessie could reply, Benjamin interrupted, "It's Daddy." In exasperation, Jasper handed over the phone to Oliver. "Here, Oliver, I don't want it. Zachary can have the phone." Oliver threw the phone to Zachary. Hearing how the children passed the phone around like a hot piece of iron, Benjamin was speechless. Why did they dislike me so much? In the end, Zachary did not want to talk to Benjamin either. Therefore, the phone ended up in Gavin's hand. At first, Benjamin assumed that Gavin, who he brought up, would talk to him. Yet, to his disappointment, the call ended without any warning. Before the call ended, He also heard Gavin whine, "I don't want to talk to him." Benjamin's face fell. Afraid that the children would call again while Arissa was asleep, Benjamin kept her phone with him in his study. After a short while, Arissa's phone rang again, and it was from Bradley. Benjamin picked it up. "Boss, I have made the necessary arrangements. Please rest well. If there is any news, I'll let you know." Immediately, Benjamin narrowed his eyes and interrogated, "What did you have to do?" Silence ensued. Holy shit. Why did Mr. Graham pick up boss's phone? This is terrifying. Seconds later, Bradley put down the phone without answering Benjamin's question. Benjamin frowned and felt a surging wave of rage. Why does everyone like to end the call when they hear my voice? Am I that scary? Gritting his teeth, he made another call. "Go check out what Donna told Arissa." Half an hour, he received a reply. "The prison guard is on vacation, and I can't contact him now." Benjamin was disappointed to hear that, but he was determined to find out what had happened. Continue to phone him. If he could not find out what happened by himself, he would have to confront Arissa. With that in mind, he stood up and headed up the stairs. However, Arissa was still asleep. Therefore, he returned to the study to continue working. When Arissa woke up, she looked at the clock to realize that her children had already finished school. She hurriedly got up to wash her face before changing her clothes. Then, she rushed down the stairs. Before she could step out the door, she heard someone asking, "Where are you going?" Arissa stopped in her tracks. Turning around, she saw Benjamin staring at her. "I am heading to school to pick the children up. They have already finished their classes." Edwin already left to do that, Benjamin informed her and gestured for her to come back in. When did Edwin leave for school? Arissa thought she could still make it on time if she rushed to the school now. To her dismay, Benjamin raised his brows and replied, "Edwin left about half an hour." Arissa's shoulders slumped. It means that Edwin and the children are probably on their way back. Arissa felt upset for breaking another promise. This morning, she had agreed to pick the children up from school. "Come to the study with me," Benjamin stated while heading toward the study. Arissa tilted her head in confusion but still followed behind him. "What's the matter?" Arissa impatiently asked him, with her mind still on her children. Scanning Arissa from head to toe, Benjamin then pointed to the snacks on the table. "Eat these. Did he call me in here to make me eat?" Arissa glanced at him suspiciously. Regardless, she sat down and picked up a piece of pastry to munch on. It was delicious, so she could not resist helping herself to a few more. "What did Donna tell you?" Chapter 376. His direct question took Arissa by surprise. She said nothing as she took a while to swallow her food. Seeing how quiet she was, Benjamin furrowed his brows. Nonetheless, he did not interrogate her further but poured a cup of tea for her. His small actions touched Arissa. After taking a few sips of the tea, she felt calmer. She had no idea how to tell Benjamin what happened. He was the child's father too. If she was alone, she might not be able to find the child. If she was searching together with Benjamin, there was a higher chance of finding the child. When she woke up earlier, she wanted to tell him immediately that she had dreamt of what happened that year again. This time, it appeared less fuzzy in her head. It seemed like Donna had taken 2 of her children. Thinking about it, Arissa felt her headache return, so she took a deep breath to control it. "What's wrong?" Benjamin noticed the frown on her forehead, and he mirrored it. Even though Arissa seemed pale and in pain, she replied, "I'm fine." It only made Benjamin worry more. He walked toward her and started to massage her head. Slowly, the pain subsided, and Arissa felt much better than before. "Don't think so much for now. You can always tell me when you have fully recovered." "No, I can't do that," Arissa interrupted and spun around to stare at him. "I have to tell you." Feeling anxious, Arissa started to tear up, and Benjamin was startled by that sight. "Okay." The man's gentle and soothing voice calmed her down. Arissa's heart started to race, and she had a blush that reached her ears. A hint of happiness flickered in Benjamin's eyes as he felt glad that she did not turn away but told him things. It made his heart burst with joy. Meanwhile, Benjamin continued to massage her head to soothe her headache. After 10 minutes, she muttered, "You can stop. I'm feeling better now." Benjamin looked down at her face and noticed she seemed better now. "If you still feel unwell, you should lie down." Orissa felt warm and bubbly on the inside, hearing the concern in Benjamin's voice. "Okay, but I'm all right. I can take the pain." Benjamin could only give her a disapproving look. "The doctor said that you can't get agitated." "I know that," Orissa assured. "It is not as serious as the doctor stated anyway. Don't worry." Although Benjamin still did not look convinced, he returned to his seat behind the study table and picked up a document to read. Orissa thought it was funny how he changed into a cold nobleman in the next second. Despite so, she was overjoyed. "He cares for me. You know that I visited Donna at the prison, right?" It was a rhetorical question. Yes. Benjamin did not deny it as it was only natural he knew. Initially, he did not want her to have to recall all this. However, he had no other choice since the prison guard was away. Holding the tea in her hands, Orissa took another sip before she continued, "Benjamin, I think." "Mommy." Suddenly, the children called out from outside, and their footsteps grew louder. Orissa glanced at Benjamin. Understanding her dilemma, Benjamin suggested, "You can continue later." In the next minute, the door to the study burst open, revealing the 5 children, who were still carrying their backpacks. They looked cute with their bags bobbing on their backs. "Mommy," they called out again. When Jessie noticed Benjamin's presence, she froze. Then, he regained his composure and jumped into Orissa's embrace. "Sweetheart." Orissa giggled and steadily held Jessie in her arms. Then, her other 4 brothers ran to her too. "Mommy." "Sweethearts." Orissa hugged all of them and took in a whiff of the smell of milk on them. Instantly, she felt that her mood had lifted. "Sweethearts, I'm sorry that I did not pick you up." Orissa quickly apologized for her broken promise. "Mommy, it's okay. Mr. Whitley told us that you were still sick, so you did not pick us up." "Are you feeling better now?" Gavin frowned and worriedly questioned. Chapter 377. Exactly. "Mommy, why did you fall sick again?" "We got a shock." Zachary looked so worried, and he studied her expression. She did not seem well. "Mommy, do you feel better now?" Oliver quickly pulled away from Orissa to give her some space. "Mommy, do you have a fever?" Jasper also chimed in. At the same time, Jessie touched Orissa's forehead and stated, "Mommy's forehead is still cold." Looking at how concerned her children were, Orissa felt loved. Hugging them tightly, she planted a kiss on each of their faces. "Don't worry, I'm all right." Then, Orissa helped them take off their backpacks. "Come, take your backpacks off." "Mommy, I can do it myself." The 5 of them turned away from her and took their bags off. They even placed them neatly in a corner. Orissa could not help but smile at them. No matter how she looked at them, they were all like precious jewels to her. "Were all of you well behaved at school today?" The children nodded. Then, Jessie murmured, "Mommy, we also made a new friend at school today." "Is that so? That's great." Listening to her children sharing about their day, Orissa glanced at them with affection. As they spoke, Jess's eyes flickered to the food on the study table, and they lit up. She gulped. However, when he met Benjamin's eyes, he looked away in fear. In that instant, Benjamin felt like his cold heart had softened. Orissa also noticed Jessie licking his lips. "Haha, come and eat." The 5 children beamed and gathered around the table to eat. Before that, Orissa passed them some tissues to clean their hands. She also poured them a cup of tea each. Following that, the children stuffed their mouths with food. They were starving since they had finished their classes and had not eaten. While they ate, they stared at Benjamin. "Hello, Mr. Graham." Zachary was first to greet him. Then, Oliver, Jasper, and Jessie followed. However, Gavin was still angry with Benjamin, and he stubbornly remained quiet. He glanced at his father for a while before turning his attention to the food. Benjamin acknowledged the other 4 children's greeting. Looking at Gavin, he stated, "Gavin, you are the oldest. How could you be so disrespectful to me?" Reluctantly, Gavin pouted and grumbled, "Hello, Mr. Graham." Benjamin felt his blood pressure rising. What a rascal. Noticing Benjamin's annoyed expression, Orissa patted Gavin's head and cooed, "Sweetheart, Daddy asked the kitchen to prepare all of these snacks for all of you. See, they are all your favorite food." Coincidentally, the snacks were the children's favorite, so Orissa could use them to coax her children. Gavin's eyes lit up for a second, though he still looked upset. "These are only for my younger brothers," Gavin retorted. "There's a portion for you too." "Right," Orissa laughed. "They are made based on your liking." Her words had successfully cheered Gavin up. Meanwhile, Benjamin's eyes flickered with glee. He did not expect Orissa to put in a good word for him. Later, Gavin looked at Benjamin and politely thanked him for the food. "Thank you," he muttered. Orissa quietly looked at Benjamin. This father and son pair looks and act alike. I can see that Benjamin brought him up. They are both cold and proud. Afraid that the children would distract Benjamin from his work, she thought of taking them out. Yet, Benjamin stopped her. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to take them out." Orissa looked at him innocently. Pointing at the snacks on the table, Benjamin stated, "They can finish the food here first. Won't they disrupt your work?" Benjamin stared at her and growled, "Well, they can finish their food quickly so you can talk to me." Orissa did not know how to respond. On the other hand, the children stared at their parents with questions running through their minds. "What does Mommy want to tell Daddy? You are so fierce," Zachary snorted. It took Benjamin by surprise. Chapter 378. After they finished their food, they continued to stay as they were curious about what Orissa had to say. "Sweethearts, did you eat your fill?" Orissa smiled at her children, hoping they would leave soon. However, the five of them blinked at her and asked in unison, "Mommy, what secret do you have?" "You are still children and should not listen to the conversation between adults," Orissa stated. The children held their tongues. After they took their bags, they shuffled out of the room. Soon, only Orissa and Benjamin were in the study. Orissa could feel Benjamin's eyes on her back. As expected, she turned around to catch him staring at her. "Are you full?" Benjamin stared intently at her. Orissa nodded, "Yes, thank you for the food." Then, Benjamin looked around before saying, "Sit down and talk to me." "Okay." Obediently, Orissa sat down. However, she came to her senses. "Why do I have to listen to him?" When she raised her head to look at Benjamin's eyes, she sighed. She was about to speak when Benjamin stood up. Unsure of what he was doing, Orissa's eyes followed the man's figure. He walked to the door and opened it. Immediately, the children hiding behind it widened their eyes. "Go along and play with your toys," Benjamin spoke, with a hint of threat in his voice. Terrified, the children turned to run off to their rooms at once. Amused, Benjamin grinned before closing the door again and returning to the table. Orissa looked away. When Benjamin sat down, she did not know how to bring up the topic anymore. She poured herself a glass of water and took a sip from it. The whole time, Benjamin did not rush her. He picked up his documents and started to go through them. It was difficult for Orissa to avert her gaze from Benjamin as he looked handsome and enchanting while he dealt with his work. He had long eyelashes and the perfect features. Her eyes flickered, and she felt her heart beating faster. She gulped. "Pour me a glass of water." "Huh." His booming voice pulled Orissa out of her daydream. Benjamin raised his head and gestured to the water. "Pour me a glass." "Oh." Orissa quickly snapped out of her daze and did as asked. Meanwhile, Benjamin smirked at her reaction. "What were you thinking about earlier?" "And nothing," Orissa stammered. There was no way she would admit that she was admiring his features. "So what did Donna say to you?" Benjamin brought up the topic again. This time, Orissa bit her lips and stared at Benjamin. "When I gave birth, I fainted several times. In addition, I got injured, so I only have a faint memory of what happened then." Benjamin nodded. She mentioned it to Sean in the hospital previously. He did not interrupt to ask her how she got injured because he had guessed it. Previously, she also said that someone threw her into the desert. Clenching her fists, Orissa took a deep breath and continued, "I think I gave birth to another child." She peeked at Benjamin's face, but he showed no reaction. Therefore, she thought he did not catch what she said. Gripping the cloth on her pants, she painfully repeated, "That year, I think I gave birth to 6 children. Benjamin's eyes widened. 6. He was shocked to hear those words leave her mouth. Thinking about how she did not know where the child went, she grew sad and felt tears in her eyes. I think Donna took the child away. Orissa felt sad and guilty. She could not believe that she had forgotten all about her child. On the other hand, Benjamin did not know what to say. That year, Donna looked for him with only one child in her arms. He did not see 2 children. So where did the child go? In the next second, fury filled his eyes. She told you this. Orissa sniffed and nodded. She choked. The midwife also admitted that Donna took the oldest and second oldest child away. One of them was weaker, and I remember seeing that in my dream. However, I'm not sure if it was the oldest or second child. When Gavin was younger, they took him to the hospital often. Benjamin was dumbfounded by the news. Chapter 379. Did Donna only bring a child along when she looked for you back then, Benjamin? Orissa was getting anxious, and her eyes were reddened. She was on the verge of crying because she was afraid to hear the news of despair. Benjamin pursed his lips when he saw the helplessness and hopelessness in her eyes. He was heartbroken. He then stood up and walked up to her before tapping her shoulder and saying, "I'll get people to find that child. Regardless of whether dead or alive, we'll find the child." Benjamin's face was darkened, and he was horrified when he realized that something bad might have happened to the child. At that moment, Orissa slumped downward as sadness overwhelmed her. In the past, she'd already asked him before, and he said only Gavin was brought back. There was no sign of the other child. Orissa's heart was broken at the thought of the child's misfortune. I've let him down. How did I forget about him? I'm a bad mother. Orissa's face was covered in tears, and her heart was filled with guilt. My child was taken away because I'm such an incompetent mother. Benjamin had never seen her so despondent before. Heartbroken, he held her face and got her to look at him. Orissa, now is not the time for guilt and sadness. It's important to find the child first. Orissa calmed down significantly when she saw the determination in Benjamin's eyes. What if we can't? We surely can. Benjamin intensified his gaze. While he was comforting her, he was also consoling himself at the same time. No matter how I asked Donna, she wouldn't tell me the child's whereabouts. She threatened me and gave me her demands. I didn't promise her anything because I want to find the child first. I'm not letting her walk away scot-free. She's the reason I've been separated from my child for so many years. I'll never let her get away with this. However, she's the only one who knows the whereabouts of the child. Although Orissa was full of hatred, she was still in a dilemma. Indeed, only Donna knew where the child was. Coldness shone in Benjamin's narrowed eyes. What does she want? No wonder Orissa is upset. Donna had used the child's life to threaten her. Benjamin gritted his teeth in anger. How dare you, Donna? How dare you use my child? Orissa tried her best to calm herself down before telling Benjamin everything that had happened in the prison. She said she wants to get released, and she'll tell me the child's whereabouts in exchange. Orissa was worried sick for the child. She wants to get out of there. Dream on. Benjamin exuded a cold and fearsome aura. Instantly, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Donna is asking for death. The oppressing atmosphere in the study room was so intense that it was suffocating. The 5 kids were sitting on the staircase when all of them had their chins rested on their hands as they watched what was happening downstairs. Right then, Jasper said, "What do you guys think Mommy and Daddy are talking about? Why don't they let us in on it? Perhaps it's a big secret. Maybe Mommy thinks we're going to get worried if we heard it," Oliver answered. "Surely, it's something important. That's why they don't want us to hear any of it." Zachary sighed. Jessie glanced at her brothers and asked, "What could it be? Could they be arguing?" Gavin patted Jess's head and said, "That shouldn't be it. When we came back, Mommy had something to eat. If they were arguing, Mommy would surely not touch any of the food." Zachary is right. Jasper chimed in before frowning and mumbling, "What could they be talking about, then?" Zachary's eyes darted around as he glanced at them and asked, "Did any of you notice Mommy acting weird?" Suddenly, Gavin, Oliver, Jasper, and Jesse shifted their gazes toward him. Weird. How so? Zachary looked at them and gestured for them to come closer. When they all leaned in, Zachary whispered, "Didn't you guys notice Mommy has been acting strange since yesterday? She seems troubled." Chapter 380. Could it be that Daddy is bullying Mommy? Jessie furrowed her brows and made her guess. Hearing that, the kids exchanged glances with one another. "I don't think so," Gavin answered softly. He wasn't defending Benjamin per se, but he definitely knew Benjamin better. If Mommy was being bullied, they wouldn't be talking to each other nicely in the study room just now. Zachary and the rest agreed. Then it has to be something else. Zachary knitted his brows because he was sure Orissa was hiding something from them. Right then, Jasper thought of something they could do. "Should we go to the back and eavesdrop?" Oliver's eyes lit up and reminded Zachary, "Since Mommy and Daddy didn't want us to hear, we'll surely get punished if we get caught. We just have to be careful. If you're scared, I'll go on my own." Jasper glanced at them before getting up and running down the stairs. Right then, Zachary and Gavin shared a look. "I'm going as well." Zachary went along because not only was he worried about Orissa, but he really wanted to know what they were talking about in the study room. Gavin ran after them as well. "Wait for me, I'm going too." Oliver followed suit. "Wait for me," Jessie exclaimed. Before Jessie could even get up, the boys were already far ahead. Oliver turned around toward Jessie and instructed, "You don't have to go. Stay here and keep an eye on the situation for us." "Oh, okay," Jessie nodded and urged, "Please don't get caught." The four boys ran toward the balcony behind the study and leaned in. Since the curtains weren't drawn, they could clearly see the people inside the room. The boys widened their eyes in shock when they saw Benjamin hugging Orissa. At that moment, their impression of Benjamin improved. "It seems like Mommy is crying." Jasper frowned and told his brothers softly. Oliver nodded in agreement. "Why is Mommy crying? I can't hear what they're talking about." Since the balcony door to the study room was shut and their parents were far away from the door, they couldn't hear their conversation. Gavin's and Zachary's brows furrowed tightly as they were watching the movements in the room intently. Orissa had no idea the kids were eavesdropping at that point. She regained her composure and was embarrassed when realized she was in Benjamin's arms. A blush crept up her ears, and they burned with embarrassment. She then instantly pulled herself away from his embrace and avoided eye contact. "Benjamin, could you get more people to look for the child? I'm afraid that Donna might do something to him." Orissa broke the silence. Benjamin looked at her worried expression intently before caressing her hair. "Okay, I'll make the arrangements right away." With that, Benjamin whipped out his phone and made a call. Orissa pulled the hem of his shirt and reminded softly, "It's better to search in secret." Indeed, if they didn't keep it low, they might alert the perpetrators. "Okay." Benjamin threw her a glance before instructing the person on the phone. "Use Gavin's photo to search. See if there are records on the police's system and get people from different areas to search secretively." While listening to Benjamin giving the instruction, Orissa was touched when she saw the concerned expression on his face. Benjamin is a good father, after all. He cares for the kids. Suddenly, Benjamin's eyes lit up when he thought of something. Continue the search advertisement on the major media outlets. A reward is in place for whoever finds the kid. Orissa was startled upon hearing that. "Oh, right, why didn't I think of that? We can make use of that advertisement again. Besides, Donna's men won't realize it that easily. Even if they do, the most they could do is just hide. We'll definitely have a lead if someone in the area has seen the child." Although Orissa was excited, she was still worried about the child's safety. She waited for Benjamin to end his call before asking him anxiously, "What if they're alerted? Will they harm our son?" Benjamin touched her head gently and said, "Since there's a reward, those people won't dare to act rashly."